But it's going to be a fun sermon. You want to hear the title?
Yeah, what is it?
Lot asked for a lot and got a lot more than he envisioned.
That's a good one.
Yeah, or more than he imagined. I think maybe it is.
So wait, where's the fun title?
That was an awesome title.
You should.
Why are you so salty?
You should do a. Yeah, you should do.
Did you get that one?
For Chili Bowl one year, you need to do a sermon about when was it Cain gave his inheritance away for some soup or something like that?
Cain?
No, I'm getting it all wrong.
No, Pastor Steve.
I'm getting it all wrong. Welcome to the Gathering Greenhouse.
How many words that start with the letter D?
Yeah.
Can we come up with that are like the equivalent of delay? So delay is one. Dawdle. You guys want to finish your thing now?
Yeah. Welcome to the Gathering Greenhouse, a podcast to help us grow together. I'm Steve.
And I'm David. Wait.
And we're dawdling together.
We're dawdling away. Like
yes.
I'm trying to think if there's others. There's got to be others, right?
Yeah, I can't think of any right now, but you're the word guy.
I know.
So you should have them.
It's late in the day, though.
Here's a great question.
I can't handle these kinds of conversations after lunch.
This is an original thought of mine here. What is a food you just can't resist? Do you recognize that? Do you recognize that question?
Should I?
Because it's from the Bible. Your sermon leftovers.
Is it?
Is it your question?
Yeah, but that was a week ago.
I know.
I mean, come on.
By the way, plug, if you want extra group questions or just questions to go over for the sermon.
Is that out of the YouVersion app?
It's on the YouVersion app, yeah.
Okay.
The Bible YouVersion app. I thought this was a good one because it applied to your sermon. And, yep. What is a food you just can't resist? I think I could guess. Can I guess first, or should I?
Let me think about it for a second.
Okay.
The best way to do is have you write it down, and then
that would have been the way to do it.
Yeah, but honestly, I think this is one of those questions where the negative answer is probably shorter than the positive answer. Like there are probably, I like food.
Yeah.
So one food that I cannot resist. Okay, so. We'll just eliminate like sweets and chocolates
okay.
Right?
Well, then there goes mine.
Like candy and stuff.
Yeah.
Like really high on the list would be Mary Ann's chocolate chip cookies.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. That was what I was going to say.
Yeah.
That's not sweets and chocolates?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
But, depending on where I'm at in life, like Reese's is hard. Like there's a lot of times I'll be in a store and it's always in the checkout lane.
Yeah.
I'm just like, ooh.
Those big cups, every time I see those.
That's what I'm talking about.
I don't really, and it could have the little cookies in it. I don't care.
Yeah.
Those every one that I've had has been better than a regular size Reese cup, no matter what's been in it. They've been great.
Yeah,
John is shaking it. John is behind the cameras today.
With the exception of the cookie one.
See, I would still go with the cookie one. The cookie one we had last week. I would still take that over a regular one.
No, that's not.
I didn't mind it.
That's incorrect.
It was not the greatest topping. It was clearly a marketing scheme to get people to buy more, but I still did not mind it.
Hey,
cup.
Have I hit my head recently?
Why?
I just feel like I don't even remember last week's podcast. I feel like maybe it's just.
Well, we didn't have that last week. We didn't have the cookie. That was like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, good. Okay, I feel better.
That was like
then.
2 weeks ago. I think I did say last week, but. You did hit your head.
Did I?
So I think for me, the big thing that I can't resist is pastries, like anything like that. So like I love Amy Cakes in Miamisburg. I think I brought something in before from there.
Yeah, good stuff there.
Really good. I'm really into Milton's Donuts right now, which they have. The closest one to me is in New Carlisle. I'll go running over there, and then afterwards go and stop. It's like completely guilt-free.
When you say you go running over there.
Yeah, Twin Creek is over there.
Like you go there to run. You don't like run to there.
Oh, no, I don't run to there. I go over there. That's right.
I was going to be like, man, you're really into this running thing.
No, that's pretty far.
All right.
No, we drive over there.
I think for me, it might be Lucky Charms actually might be the
Really?
the thing, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
They're magically delicious.
I had two bowls of Lucky Charms last night. That's why we rarely have it in the house because it's just like I can't.
I don't mind the sugar cereal that much. I let my kids have it because there's not a ton of sugar in it for how much you get to eat.
Yeah, I'm not your kids though, so I can.
No.
Yes, you could probably insert like a leprechaun joke here. All right, what?
They're stealing me Lucky Charms.
They're stealing me Lucky Charms. The Irish had a rough night last night.
That's right.
Yeah.
They did have a rough night. I don't know. I mean, they made it that far.
I didn't watch the game till the very, very end.
Yeah.
Like I saw the best part of the game, which was when it got close.
Right. Yeah. But for people who either didn't care who won or wanted to see a good game, the end was the best. For people who wanted Ohio State to win, that was the worst part of the game.
Did you watch the whole game?
I did. Yeah, I watched the whole thing.
Were you like, everybody be quiet, we're watching this game?
No, I wanted my son to watch it because he's really into football. So I thought, this is a good opportunity for him to see his team, one of his teams, to win a national championship. And
Did John watch the game?
Nope.
None of it.
If Ohio State wasn't in it, I wouldn't have cared.
Yeah, we've been watching a new show on Masterpiece Theater.
That is one of the lamest things I've ever heard.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. So we started it because over Christmas, when the kids were home, they just got on this Clue kick. You know, the board game Clue.
Yes. That's funny. So have we been on a Clue.
I'm not saying we've been on it, but
just your kids.
Well, so for whatever reason, like Gabby and Emma got just like, they were like, we probably played 10 different games of Clue while they were home.
Who won?
It is a mix.
A mix?
Yeah. I don't think I ever did. But
I don't think I've ever lost at the game Clue.
Ever.
I never. But I haven't played that many times.
All right.
I'm pretty good at Clue.
So the version we have is a new version. It's different than the version I grew up with.
Yeah.
Where there's these extra cards that you can get that give you powers. Yeah. But also, if like at some point you can draw a card and you're dead, you're out of the game, and then you have to reveal all your cards to everybody else. But anyways, so because of the Clue thing, and we love our kids, and like we miss our kids. They've been gone a couple weeks now, and PBS Masterpiece Theater we subscribe. You have to subscribe to get this.
Gosh. How much do you pay for that subscription?
It's
too
like,
much.
No.
No matter
like,
what it is, it's too much.
No, it's like $6.99 a month.
Okay,
so that's not bad. The only two
you could probably get like Peacock for that.
We do get Peacock. The only two abnormal things that we subscribe to, like apart from the major stuff, are Masterpiece Theater or PBS, and BritBox.
Yeah. How's Murder, She Wrote? Do you enjoy that?
We don't watch that. No. So anyways, all that to say, because of the Clue thing, we saw that Masterpiece Theater has this series called Miss Scarlet. So we've been watching Miss Scarlet. It's actually a pretty good show.
So it's based on Clue?
No, it's a British.
She just happens to have the same name as someone.
She's a detective.
They probably ripped it off of that.
It's in 19th century England, mostly in London.
This sounds like something my wife would watch.
The most disappointing part of the show is that she never wears red.
That is
right. It's like
she's always.
And this is the thing. She's always wearing peacock blue. I'm like, you're not Miss Peacock.
No,
you're Miss Scarlet.
They're just trying to rip off all the themes there.
Yeah. Aren't you guys glad I'm on the podcast today? This thing has been so focused.
It has. I do have some questions about temptation.
I wasn't supposed to be on the podcast today.
And what happened?
I don't really know.
You don't know. I do know what happened. I'm not going to say though.
We ended up shooting it on because it's Tuesday that we're shooting it on instead of Monday. So all right.
Temptation. I got some temptation questions.
Tempting.
Yes. So what does the story of Adam and Eve teach us about the nature of temptation?
Good question.
That it's tempting?
That it's tempting. I think that there's probably a lot of things that you could answer that with. So I think part of it is the idea that temptation almost always targets our lack or our perceived lack, right? Because that's what.
So would that be like, the perceived lack could be like coveting?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
where it takes us.
When we had this conversation yesterday, that's where we spent a lot of time on.
Yeah. So I mean, that's where the serpent goes immediately, right?
Yeah.
As God said, you cannot have any.
Yeah.
And I think that's what temptation almost always
Yeah.
is for us is it's focused on what we think we lack.
Right.
And then how we respond immediately, I think, really plays a big part in it.
Yeah.
And I think this is where like New Testament teaching on temptation is helpful for us, because we have several places where we see that temptation, it's not something we can't defeat. And in fact, temptation itself isn't wrong. Jesus was tempted.
Yeah.
The fact that Adam and Eve were tempted wasn't wrong. The question is, what do we do with temptation?
Are there parallels between Adam and Eve's temptation and Jesus'
So many
temptation?
So
Okay.
many. I wish, like I told you,
Yeah.
I retooled the whole sermon,
Yeah.
right? And originally the sermon was going to be just Genesis 3, Matthew 4, which is the temptation of Jesus, and 1 John 2, and showing how all three, the pattern is exactly the same.
Right. And Jesus undoing the sin, the
Yes.
original
so,
sin.
So start with the temptations, right? Where Satan leads with Jesus with, hey, you need to eat, right? Where he leads with Eve, you need to eat.
Yes.
And then he goes to, hey, if you throw yourself off the pinnacle of the temple, then the angels will catch you, which is essentially this question of provision, right? Do you trust God to provide for you? Which is exactly what he's doing with Eve. Has God really provided for you? And then he gets to, if you'll just bow down and worship me, I'll give you the kingdoms of the world, which is identical to Eve. Hey, if you'll just do this, then you'll be like God. He's promising something he can't deliver. So exact same. Here's the big difference though. Adam and Eve were in a garden where they had everything.
Yes.
Jesus was in the wilderness where he had nothing.
Yep.
Adam and Eve were in a garden where they could freely eat. Jesus is coming out of a 40-day fast, and yet he succeeds where they failed.
Right.
Yeah.
And Adam and Eve gave into the temptation, and Jesus conquered temptation.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's just there's so many parallels that kind of like, it gives me chills a little bit, like it's almost too good to be true.
Do you listen to
Too
Crime
good to
Junkies?
I do. Yeah. I listen to some of that stuff.
So, I don't remember what's her name, but her
Oh, this specific one called Crime
Junkies.
No, I haven't
That's
seen.
the most popular. It's the number one.
Is it really? Okay,
Oh,
I have
yeah.
to check it out. I have.
It's
some
also
other
the
one.
best.
It's like Crime Garage or something like that. I listen to.
No,
and-
I think it's Ashley Flowers. That's who it is.
Okay.
It's Crime Junkies. But her friend Britt is like the co-host.
Yeah.
And she often's like, full body chills.
Yeah, it's like,
So
sometimes you're just like, something just, you're just like, wow, this is like.
No. I've been thinking about this idea of a podcast that's like true crime in the Bible.
Oh, what? That's a great idea.
We probably shouldn't put that out on YouTube.
I know
now.
that is a fantastic idea.
And like you break.
Disclaimer, copyright.
It's
Yes,
so
trademark.
you get all the people who like the Bible, all the people who like true crime. It's like Dinosaur Train, but
Right,
for
and you basically
adults who like the Bible.
You take a lot of the Bible stories and you unpack them just the way they do on the true crime shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People who Bible, that's
Crime, yeah.
really kind
A lot of people. There's a lot of them.
So it depends on what you mean by obsessed with crime.
Solving crime, crime fighters, right?
Yeah.
The reason people show is to figure out how to get.
I mean, that's
there's-
always probably in the back of your mind of like, what if I was ever in this situation?
Do you ever?
First one, don't ever talk to the police. Ask for your lawyer. That's step number one.
That's true no matter what.
Yeah. You would start to realize how the police, they aren't infallible. They kind of have their ulterior motives sometimes. And
We love the police.
Yeah.
And you should never talk to the police.
You should never
without
talk
your
to
lawyer.
the police. Right. Exactly. Because what you say and what you mean is not always the same thing, and it can be used against you.
Yeah, they may even if you're innocent, they may like string you along and end up taking you to court. Look at what happened to OJ.
Well, I was tracking with you until that point right there. OJ, I firmly believe OJ got what he deserved the second time around in the civil case.
Maybe. I mean, I wasn't there. Who am I to cast stones?
Yeah,
I think he was probably guilty.
Yeah,
but in
it's
fairness,
the reason we have a justice system.
the glove did not fit.
It did not, so he must have quit. He must have quit.
One of the all-time blunders in prosecutorial history. All
But
right.
that glove was small. I will have to agree with that.
But
I
it
don't know,
didn't
'cause
fit.
It didn't fit.
So what do you do with that? I mean,
I don't know
if-
what you do with that.
if indeed that was the
Now,
glove
he
that was worn.
wearing like plastic underneath, and it could be hard to get on.
I always felt
I always
like,
thought the blood made it like stiff.
I
so
always
it
felt
couldn't-
like when he was putting it on in court, like he wasn't really trying.
Oh, of course. What?
was like,
Why?
"Oh, it won't
What?
fit."
But what does he? What does he have to benefit from making it fit?
But I felt like the judge should have been bailiff.
Yeah. Oh, that would have been a good idea.
Make him put that glove on.
Put it on.
Yeah. But oh well.
But his hand did look huge compared to the glove.
Well, he's a big guy.
He's a big guy. Okay, you ready for another
I
question?
bet you didn't think we were going to talk about OJ
No,
today.
I didn't. The Ford Bronco is back too. Made that popular. Okay.
There is foreign release.
Did they have
really?
Did they have a?
Oh yeah. Do you guys remember where you were during the OJ? I don't know. Maybe you weren't even. Do you remember where you were
No.
during the car chase?
No.
Okay.
I don't remember it at all.
Really?
Uh,
What are you? 10 years younger than me? Less than that. 8 years?
maybe.
8 years, I think.
Yeah. I don't remember. I mean,
So you would have been in middle school then, probably.
okay. I don't remember. But- okay. How does a serpent's approach to truth show, or how does he? Sorry, I screwed that up. Start over again. How does a serpent's approach show how temptation can distort truth?
What if we said temptation always distorts truth?
I think that's a good way to put it, and I think this was one of my favorite questions that John and I talked about. I wish we could go back to it, and it's gone forever.
Yeah, I think that's the whole point of temptation is
It's based on it's taking reality and it's taking a truth and something that's good and distorting it.
right. The reason we fall to temptation is because we believe something that's not true. Which take this outside of the whole conversation about temptation is a reason why we all ought to be hyper vigilant about the truth. Because the moment you start to let go of the value and importance of truth, you're opening yourself up to temptation. And so truth does matter.
Yeah.
And holding up the truth does matter.
Mhm.
So, yeah. That serpent, man.
But I mean, does the serpent? It's really Satan. It's not the serpent, right? So it's the serpent gets a little bit of a bad rap in it. What did the serpent have to do with it? It's like those pigs that got tossed off the cliff. What did the pigs do?
I feel like you come back to that
I do.
all the time.
That's one of the questions I'm going to have for Jesus.
I struggled.
Yeah, but I
well,
guess
not
they
if they had hustled down and gotten it right away.
I don't think they would sink to the bottom. I think they would float, or maybe they could swim back. Pigs can swim, so.
So
But didn't they die?
So-
Didn't they fall? Like I see them like bouncing off the cliff,
I
going
think it
down.
was Christmas Eve that I talked about the sheep in Turkey.
Yeah.
Like thousands of them ran off the edge of the cliff.
Yeah,
And I didn't go into the statistics of it, but I think it was like 60% of them survived.
Uh-huh.
Many were injured. But I didn't say why because I thought on Christmas Eve, lots of kids, this isn't the place to say. But the reason they survived is because there was a pile of bodies at the
Yeah, they
bottom.
landed on top of
They
them.
landed on the other sheep. So the same is probably true with the pigs,
Uh-huh.
right? Yeah. So back to the serpent.
serpent. Yeah,
There are so many questions about the serpent that we could like dive into. So number one, did the serpent have legs? Right?
Mhm.
Because part of the curses is that it had to slither on its belly. Why
they get along pretty good on their belly, though. I'm saying they don't seem
do.
to have much of a problem.
They do. But like one of the questions is, why was Eve so comfortable talking to the snake?
Mhm.
Does that
Because no one was afraid of snakes back then.
it was talking? Right, you're not afraid of dogs, but if your dog started talking to you, you might be like, "Whoa!"
There's a lot of questions that brings
But
up.
what that kind of raises is the question of, could the serpent talk? Like, could all animals talk?
Mhm. Or communicate in some way.
I mean, the chapter leads with this description of the serpent, right? That the serpent was more crafty than any other animal. And so there's this idea that maybe in the garden, there was kind of a hierarchy of animals, kind of like there is now, right? There are certain animals that are more intelligent than others.
Mm-hmm.
Koala bears go really low on that.
Oh, they're not smart.
I don't think they're very smart, yeah. Have you seen,
Pigs are pretty intelligent.
I've heard that. But apparently the serpent was like way up here. And so maybe Eve was like, talk to the serpent all the time. Now, and so then the next question is, was the serpent like indwelled by Satan? Or was the serpent just evil, or how does that happen? And I don't think we have an answer to that.
Okay, so is tempting someone else a sin?
Yes.
So then would the first sin actually be from the serpent?
The serpent's not a human.
Right.
It's not a person. Oh, so when you get into the whole first sin thing too, right now you're going to, well, wasn't the first sin when Eve misrepresented God?
Yes, right.
And what if she only did that because Adam misrepresented God to her? So was that the first sin? I don't think actually the point of Genesis 3 is first sin as much as how did this get started?
Yeah.
So
right.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So next question: why do you think the forbidden fruit was so appealing to Adam and Eve?
Well, because it was good for food, was pleasing to the eye, and able to make one wise.
There you go. Yeah, but what do you think it was about it? Was it the way that it was explained by the serpent? Was it, the possibility of what it could do for them? Was it the fact that they were not allowed to take it?
Yeah, I guess, we don't know for sure, but based on the way the story plays out, I would say it probably had nothing to do with the fruit itself.
Yeah.
That it was that Adam and Eve bought into everything the serpent said, and so they felt like it was something that was really good that was being withheld from them, and that made them want it more.
Yeah.
So they went for it. Yeah.
All right, I have 2 more questions. We have time for that.
I don't know.
Okay. All right. In what ways do we face similar temptations to doubt God's word today?
All right. So I think there's 2 ways to approach this.
Yeah.
I think the first is just that there's a whole movement, and it's not new. I mean, all the way back to the Apostle Paul talking about Alexander and Hymenaeus who shipwrecked their faith, right? And so people have been leaving the faith forever. These days we call it deconstructing. And I think the whole deconstruction movement begins with this, has God really said? Where we begin to take parts of Scripture and say, well, God didn't really say that. And usually it's the parts that we don't like. There was this movement back maybe 30, 35 years ago. This group of scholars went through the Gospels. I think they called it like the Historical Jesus Project or something, determining what Jesus actually did and didn't do. And it's really funny the way they determined this is they'd all sit in a room together and they'd look at a passage. So say maybe they look at the place where Jesus says, I am the resurrection and the life.
Yeah.
And they would have this conversation, this debate. Did Jesus really say this? Why would he? Why wouldn't he have? And then they'd pass like a box or a bowl around, and they all had marbles.
Yeah.
And they'd put a white marble in if they thought Jesus did or said it.
Yeah.
And a black marble if they thought he didn't.
Yeah. So it's based on their opinions.
And then whatever vote won, it's like, okay, take that out or put it in. And and it's like, okay, that's not very scholarly at all.
Yeah.
But again, it comes back to, so they want to deny the resurrection. Right? Because if Jesus actually rose from the dead, then he's God, and then, we have something we have to answer for to him. And then it was, let's get rid of the miracles, because if Jesus did miracles, he might have been God. And then it's like, let's get rid of any teaching that's, goes against the morality of the day. So I think that's one way that the temptation to not listen to God is. I think the other one is much more subtle, and it's the one that people like us wrestle with. Our church is full of people who would say, I believe that the Bible is God's word.
Yeah.
And I believe it fully, and that's good. But anytime that we don't live it out, we're practically saying, has God really said? Right? So when the Bible said, when Jesus says, love your enemy and pray for those who mistreat you. Okay. Has God really said that? Because if I don't do that, like, right, if I hate my enemy and hope the worst for him, then with my actions, what I'm saying is, has God really spoken? And so I think that's, for us, that's the more subtle way that temptation comes up. The reason I thought of that, though, is kind of cool. I saw Jeb Bush last night tweeted out. Most people don't read Twitter anymore.
Yeah.
But just tweeted out this really, hey, I'm praying for our new president. And I mean, Jeb Bush has every reason in the world to not like Donald Trump.
Yeah, he was
right.
kind of mean. He was kind of mean to him. Yeah.
He was ground zero of the 2016. And yet, there he is saying, hey, I'm praying for this guy, which I was like, yeah, that's it right there. Love your enemies, pray for those who mistreat you. So,
yeah. I think another way is when we aren't content.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that's, from what you said in the beginning, the first one is, coveting, wanting what other people have. That's like, to me, that's the epitome of being non-content. If you look around at what other people have and say, why don't I have that? You're not trusting that God has provided you with exactly what you need.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, like when the serpent says, has God really said, you can't have any? That's what he's doing.
Well, like, wait a second. Like, why don't I have that?
Right. Mm-hmm.
I need that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, last question. What role does free will play in the story of Adam and Eve and in our lives? I thought this was a really good question because John did not like the question, but, it's one of those things of, like this story is a great example of that, of God's creation and our choice.
So I'm going to
sovereignty and free will, and
I'm going to answer this in the way that you might expect.
Right.
That it's going to be a little bit of a non-answer.
Right.
Because I probably fall into the camp of John that I don't like the question.
Yeah.
But let me walk through that. So let's start with free will is a phrase that we like to use.
Yeah.
And it's a phrase that is a misnomer.
Mm-hmm.
So let's acknowledge, first of all, that free will, like the precise meaning of that doesn't exist.
You're right.
Nobody has free will.
Yes.
Now, we all have choice.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get back to the choice in a minute. So why do I say nobody has free will? Because there are some things you can't do.
Mm-hmm. I
can't fly.
Yeah.
As much as I may want to, I can't fly.
You can fly for a little bit.
Nope. I can't dunk a basketball.
Yeah.
Right? Go on down the list. There are a lot of things I can't do, even if I want to do.
Yeah.
I don't have free will. We're all compelled by the laws of nature. That said, everybody does have choice.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that as we think about this story, we recognize that God gives us the ability to make choices, and those choices have consequences. Mm-hmm. Now, we don't all have the same options. We all get different options. I think last week I talked about this in 2 of the 3 services, but we all have different options in life, but we all have choices. So I don't know how much that we don't have time for me to unpack all of that. But
like
in
we all have different circumstances.
Sure,
that have different options. Is that where?
I would say an option is what I can choose. So like I might have 3 options.
Okay,
you might have 6 options.
I see what you're saying.
Right,
yeah.
and it's different. Like I have different options for what I can wear. The options for what I wear are different than the options that you wear. But what family I'm born to affects the options that I have in life.
Yeah.
Choices that I make young affect the options that I have later in life. Mm-hmm. What other people do to me affects the options I have in life. I don't have control over that. I do have control over all of my choices.
Yeah.
And in this story, Adam and Eve have control over their choices. The thing that's hard for us to wrap our heads around is that even though we always have control over our choices, God is never surprised, and he's always in control. And he's always knows from the get-go what we will choose and what the outcomes of those choices will be. And he's actually involved in that process in a way that we can't comprehend. So God is fully in control, and I have choices, and I can't explain how those 2 things work together, but they do.
Yeah. And I think that it's not exclusive. Those 2 things in my head can work together. You can have choice, and God is totally in control.
Well, I'm not sure. I can't in my head put those two things
You
together.
can't put them together?
No, not fully.
Because of God being outside of time and space.
So I know that they're true.
Yeah.
I know that it's true, but I
Right.
can't tell you how it works.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can't tell that either, but if God is outside of time and space and we are locked into time and space,
Correct.
to
But he's
some
also
extent.
but he's also acting and working in time and space.
Right.
And that's the hard part to work out for
Yeah.
me.
Okay.
God is actively involved in creation, and yet we still have choice, and those two things work together because he is sovereign. So, anybody who says God isn't sovereign doesn't understand who God is.
Yeah.
Right? Anybody who says that everything is predetermined doesn't understand how God created the universe and how God created humans. The two don't necessarily fit perfectly in our mentality,
Right.
but they're true.
Yeah.
So,
And they both exist in
as
the
I
Bible.
said, a wholly unsatisfying answer.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think if there's a lot written about two things in the Bible that seem to contradict each other, to me, it's meant to be a little bit of a struggle for us. That's part.
Sure.
That's a part of it. Is that, hey, we should. It's not clear, so maybe it is meant for us to just figure out how it works.
So
That's part of it.
So there are things in life that are not supposed to make sense.
Yeah, right.
Sin is not supposed to make sense. Death is not supposed to make sense.
Yeah.
Evil, wickedness, suffering are not supposed to make sense because this world wasn't created for those things. They're something that has been brought into the world by evil and wickedness. So they shouldn't make sense to us.
Yeah.
And we should be okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we can end it on that.
Well, that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of making sense,
Mm-hmm.
how many more subscribers do we need before we can monetize these? Yeah, how much have we made?
Zero.
We've not made sense. This podcast has never made
This
sense.
has never made sense.
We gotta link it to a bank.
Seriously, that's the only reason?
Well, then we've made money. Oh, they won't let you make.
Finish the last. Figure out how to.
So is there money waiting for us?
Well, and then
Okay.
all that said,
Hey, isn't this like an anniversary?
What? We're just finding this out right now. Actually, it's 101 because we did this episode yesterday.
But didn't count.
Well, thanks for joining us on the Gathering Greenhouse. Until we see you again, keep it real, keep it rooted, and have a great day.